when we got the first Tanisha Clark, and I'm like,
we don't know this person.
And I remember it.
We all gonna put up $500. That was the initial investment.
I believed in this from jump.
I did the pitch, and he was like, I love the brother.
We're the Jones family.
We're the Rhodes family.
We are Lyrically Correct. This is episode 1, Soundtrack to a Hustle, where we talk about life, business. We're going to start with the birth of Lyrically Correct. How do we go from concept to where we are today?
So, Lyrically Correct was birthed back in 2020. I saw something online and I thought, oh, this would be a dope game. And I shared it with Jules, and Jules said, oh yeah, we should create it. And I was like, absolutely not. How would we do it? And I remember we were in our apartment in Jersey and we were in the kitchen, and he was like, we could absolutely do this. Like, how? He's like, I'm gonna call Dante. So called Dante and told him, and Dante was like, oh, I don't even remember your response. What was your response?
I don't know. It sounded dope. It was dope. He's like, let's do it.
He said, first you said, hold on, let me think about it. Let me sleep on it. Let me see what Tiff think. And then like the next morning, first thing in the morning, you called back. I was like, yo, let's do this. This is dope.
So Tiff, from that point, how do we get from an idea that went from Jersey to North Carolina?
Right.
We were living in North Carolina at the time.
That's crazy.
I remember us having a meeting. We had made a decision on what genre we were moving forth with. We were just trying to get our groove of creating the content for the deck itself. I remember sourcing out a manufacturer, and that took time. Both things were happening at the same time. We landed on a factory at that same time or shortly after. We wound up also completing the deck. We were comfortable with it. It's many rounds back and forth. So trying to just figure out each other.
I remember specifically saying, all right, if we're going to do this, everybody take the next 2 days and come up with 15 or 20. I think it was like 20 questions.
I remember that.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
But even before that, it was like, yo, what music did we listen to? What era? We going with college era, or we going high school party era?
Yeah.
But what parties did you go to? We went to the Key. We was talking about the skate key. But what was playing in the skate key? So then we had to come up with the list of what was playing in the skate key, like rocker parties that we would go to.
If I may, I'd like to jump in. I remember vividly saying, all right, y'all, it's 4 of us. Each of us come up with 25 questions, right?
Yep.
And Jules, I'm not sure you're right. I'm not sure what came first, the genre or the questions. But in my mind, I recall just coming up with questions. Mm-hmm. And I think that was our proof of concept as well. Like, two things, it proved that we can do it. Mm-hmm. And then 2, it was dope.
It was definitely creating the questions was very fun. Just kind of
back then. Now it's a headache.
That's a fact.
It can be. But it was so much fun because it was our era. It wasn't much research.
We didn't have
I don't even think I looked up artists. I just went down my iPod in my head playlist.
And that's why the OG is so us. Right? That first deck, it's our baby.
We had a couple meetings where it turned into almost like a full-on party.
It was
listening to music.
And let's not forget, this is the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we was back outside yet.
No, we wasn't.
not.
We had virtual parties, bro. I'm telling you.
Yes.
Like,
That's
that was
crazy.
Kids were asleep at the time.
No, there were no kids.
What do you mean?
It was just
kids.
kids.
One
kid.
Each of us had a kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I know I had my baby.
And that was back when MJ was asleep by 7:30. So I remember us being downstairs, kind of like trying to listen to the music. Yeah. But it was cool too, watching us do our own thing. Like, yo, your questions is different than mine, and I'm quite sure y'all had the same
that was the
vibe.
thing where, and then it transformed into people was mad because their questions was getting clipped. Like, nah, your question not good. Your question not better than mine. Or this song was better. Yeah, that was
somebody. I'm not gonna say who, but it's somebody on these couches that they are the pettiest, and they probably still remember which one of their questions didn't get picked from the OG deck 5 years ago, and that person will dub one of your questions
Not intentionally.
today. All right.
So it was you.
I know you're talking about me.
What they say, a hit dog gonna holler. now we have some questions in mind. We've sourced a manufacturer. What next? Like, how do we get to the actual OG deck?
So a couple of things were happening all at the same time. And just I want to give context that we had formed the business in March of 2020. We had the OG in hand to
Which
sell.
is our 90s and 2000s hip hop and R&B
Facts,
deck.
Yes.
That we coined the term OG.
It's
The
just
original
easier
gang,
to say.
right? That's
It
the
is
original.
the
I'm gonna
original
give Tiff her
gang.
props. She called it the OG.
That was
It was me.
It was.
This is also another thing.
Okay.
Everybody want their credit on who did what.
I'm
That's
just
a fact.
okay. Anyway, so we had a couple of things. Well, then, like where I was going with this is that from March of 2020, we had product in hand to sell in that September. This is a really short period of time from concept to actual product, right? Because of it, we had questions happening at the same time, sourcing the manufacturer at the same time, as well as building out a website all at the same time. And once we found that manufacturer that like we trusted, we wound up placing the first order. And
but also too, this was all in 6 months, right? So
yes,
this
that was
went
my point of
from March to September.
yes,
Right.
yeah.
All of the pieces are coming together.
Everything is together.
Right.
Packaging. We decide on a designer. We go back and forth. I would love to. I guess on some podcasts we can show them where our packaging was and how it ended to the OG. And then
It wasn't even that. It was also the name, right?
It was the name as
Coming up with the
well.
name. When I remember that conversation vividly, we were about to have like the music trivia box.
We did.
We
And
were
it's,
going.
hold on, y'all. It's still ours, so don't you go out there looking for it.
Right.
I wanted to name it Versus. Because Versus.
Oh,
was
that's
hot
what the
right now.
verses was. Yeah.
It's like, nah,
We was trying to do
it's
a
gonna
play
stay
on
in this
that.
era,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Nikki,
Um,
she just want Nikki get the credit for that one.
She does. Well, then like that
up
came
with
from
the-
her.
She came up with the name.
But people voted on it.
No,
Y'all
so I was
remember?
gonna say it
People
was,
voted.
but the way it hit Nikki during conversation,
Yep.
Yes.
right? We were literally just rolling through this.
Yes.
And I think we had correct. We were going down the correct line, right? It was like rhythmically or something like, and then Nikki was just like lyrically correct. And I remember Vin was like, that's it.
That's it.
But
Yes.
the reason why I remember because I was like, nah, that's not. I was the only one that was like,
No.
that's not
It was you and I. Only Nikki said
I
it.
heard it
Dante
immediately.
Yeah.
normally like does that part. Like
Yeah.
he'll be able to see it, envision it. And Nikki at that
like-
time, even when she said it, she didn't seem that confident in it. And then Jules and I just wasn't with it.
Yeah, I was like, nah,
I really had to like, yeah.
I think it was like a
I remember.
landslide too. In the votes, when we asked people, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, that's it." Lyrically
The minute
correct,
I heard it,
lyrically
I knew it.
Uh-huh.
And then that's when we started to polls.
correct. Yep.
And people was like, nah, that's
Lyrically
it. That's
correct.
it. Yep. So that was dope. So then we had the name. And then before we move forward, I remember Tiff sending samples to your house and samples to our house. What was it like when you got that first bunch I remember coming home and seeing that first set of orders. I think we ordered like 500. We had 250
we
our
ordered-
house,
yep.
250 our house. What was that like? For me, it was crazy. It was
I'll
like,
let Nikki
oh,
just
wow.
speak because I got a different opinion. I have like a different view on it, and I got it.
So when I saw the box, it was almost like an indescribable feeling. Like it was like, wow. And I feel like in the midst of everything and in the creating the questions and all of that, it seemed like time went almost too fast. And then when we got these boxes, I'm like, wait, what did we just do here? And then it was, for me, it was a shock of, oh shit, we gotta sell these decks. Like, who's gonna, like, are people gonna like it? Like it, and then all of those, it was more of like a excitement, but also like what is gonna become of this? It almost seemed surreal to me.
Jules, what about you?
I think for me, it was kind of like going back to college party promotion day. Like, yo, how we gonna get this off? I hope this don't turn into a whack party or something like that. And then before we even got the games, I knew we had something good because our family and friends is probably our hardest critics, right? And most honest. We had the game night at our apartment. And I remember I was FaceTiming you like, yo, this the scene we doing. We asking these questions. And people was normally like just generally having a good time and laughing and drinking, having a good time. So we knew we had something good. But then when the games came, it was like, all right, how we gonna get all these games off? Like,
See, I had a different experience. I remember this was back when we used to have like kickbacks virtually. And my chapter, I'm telling the bros, like, yo, bros, I got this game coming out. I'm working on this. So some of the bros that I speak to every day, they knew what time it was. But as it's like 13, 14 of us on the call, and I'm explaining it. And maybe I wasn't doing the best job of explaining it, but they was like, not even. It was kind of like, yeah, that shit sound whack. I ain't gonna hold you. They was like, and I was just like, damn. But I didn't let that deter me. Like I believed in this from jump, right? Like, and I saw, and that feeling when it landed was different. Cause like you said, I've thrown parties, I've done different things, but I provided services and experience. But to get
a product,
physical product, like, yo, this came from my brain. It was like, to your point, like it was a multitude of emotions.
For me, it's kind of different, right? So because I come from the world of idea to actually creating product, prior to Lyrically Correct, this is just what I do. For me, getting the sample was no different than any other job that I had, right? So I also knew our first order was 500 units, and that's why in my mind, I pushed millions of units, right? So to me, in the beginning, and I'm gonna give y'all the tea. In the beginning, we wound up placing our first order. I was not comfortable with the 500 units. I just not. But it was everyone else's.
We knew that was coming. We knew that was coming.
And I'm like, 500 units. This is
so
easy
small,
to do.
So for those who don't know, typically your MOQ, your minimum order quantity for your manufacturer is going to be 500.
Yeah,
that's there. Right? So that's how you get off the stoop. You got to jump off with 500.
Tiff was like, yo, we could do this. That's it.
Yeah.
But we were like, I don't know. Even before that, right? I think, like, Dante, what you're saying, people that don't know and, like, how to start the business and all that stuff, we always like, all right, y'all, we going to spend some money, but we ain't going to spend too much. Yeah. And we all say, all right, we all going to put up $500. That was the initial investment, $2,000, and we're going to get 500 games and see how this go.
Yeah.
And then from there, just...
That was my experience. It just wasn't the same as everyone else because
it's your world.
I create products, right? Yeah. Like, that's just what I do. And I do retail. Like, all of these things just wasn't there for me instantly.
What was it like to now, like, everything is on you, right? Like, before it was like, yo, we get these 5 million units, but if they don't sell, you still getting your paycheck.
Yeah.
You know, this point is like, what was that feeling like? Or did you have the confidence to just say, I do this. This is what I do. I'm Tiff.
So it was that. Right? Like, I knew that the 500 units, they were going to blow out, right? So much so to when once we did the 500, our next order was 2,500, and I was confident in that because I've done that, right? So for me, it's easy for me to just work on everything as a job. So at that moment, it was just a job that I was doing, and it's just in my natural habitat, right? So
Understood.
These past 5 years has moved really quickly, and it works for us in the way that I move in terms of a project and project management. It can get very, like, on the job for me. I'm saying a memory that I absolutely know where I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm saying that was for Target for me. That I can remember because I'm so used to just everything is on to the next.
What she's trying to say, she had that describable feeling that we said when with Target.
Not initially.
Nikki and Jules. At what point did you feel like we had a real business?
So I remember once Tiff got Shopify up and running, and I think we had like 5 orders sitting there. And I was like, oh shoot, when it didn't come from family and friends.
Yes, agreed.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, like, people know about us. I remember DMing people. And sometimes I like cringe, like if I go back to my DMs and see like, hey, I have this music trivia game, and people just glanced over, didn't respond.
She showed scene.
Yeah,
nothing
scene
after.
and nothing after.
Yo, so I think like that answers it right there. So for Jules just say yep, so I'm assuming he feel the same way. For me, it's the same thing. What we didn't do is we didn't really talk about who we are. Like Jules and I, right, we're cousins. Then Nikki and Tiff are our wives. So but not only that, we all from the same hood. I say all this to say we have the same network. Not only that, they went to Buff State together. We went to Newports together. Both Jules and I, we're Qs. Our chapters are the same, like both New York Qs. So that first, it's not too many people that you have that I don't know or know about.
We all
And even Nikki, like Nikki went to St. Charles her whole life in Harlem. Like the friends she grew up with is on the west side with Tiff, right? The people we went to school with on the east side and that we lived with in Wagner, Tiff came to Wagner with her. You know what I mean? So like, that's really just one big ass network, because I think that expands your network. And this is a great point, that your network is your net worth, right? So us selling those first 500 games, we were selling to it's the same family, it's the same friends, the same SUNY kids, right? When we got out of that network, when we got the first Tanisha Clark, and I'm like,
we don't know this person.
And I remember it. It was be like, yo, y'all know her? Y'all know it?
That, it was that, and then you started seeing other states from like, I'm reading labels as it comes. Yo, somebody ordered from Virginia, texting, you know, yo, all the way in Cali, son. Yo, we got our first order from Cali.
Before we got to those points, it was the points of the days of, but we had one order today,
5
right? And it was like, so Nikki talk about us hitting people up on Facebook. It was like, yo, we need to get the word out. We can't really afford to do social media marketing just yet. Because like Drew said, we started this company 5 years ago with $2,000 and not a penny more. There were times when we wanted to put more money in, and this is where my resume kind of came in after growing up in banking and commercial banking and business banking, watching people throw money at problems that money couldn't solve.
Yeah.
Right? Because remember, y'all, when we thought, yo, the more money you spend on Facebook ads, the more return. It was like, yo, $50 turned into this many sales. If we do two, that's not always the way it works. And having the strength and you guys trusting me, saying, look, let's not put no more money on this. We gonna figure it out. And a part of that figuring it out was, yo, everybody get on Facebook, send blast messages
on Facebook, Instagram. I remember me and you was in bruh chat groups.
Nikki and Tiff was on a joining random group. The small black businesses in North Carolina, New Jersey black businesses.
I went to my when we lived. At that time we was living in Jersey, but a group chat we was in when we was living in Atlanta. Like, yo, y'all, I got this new game, show love, blah blah blah. Buy it off the website and everything. Then y'all was in North Carolina. Y'all tapped into y'all people in North Carolina. That also helped, right? That's kind of where we.
I don't know if that helped though. I think if we had to do it again, I would do it again.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we really seen too much fruit. But you don't know, right? Some of those things.
Well, I know for me, I reached with some of the songs because we real New York based, right?
Yeah.
I reached out to some people down there like, yo, what songs was popping that you listened to in high school at this time or whatever. So I reached out to people down there. When we lived in Cali, that we didn't reach out to them as much. But more, I know down south songs. That definitely, because that was that crunk era and everything.
Yeah. So we all agree that for Tiff was when we landed in Target, which is crazy because that was wild far. Like we had a whole business.
I know, but it's also for me, like I've been moving that I remember for that. And not to say that they did not happen, but I really feel like I've been on go since the start. Right, like, and not that nobody else
also
has.
No, but you were also the only one that was full time at the time.
Yes.
Because at the other points, like all three of us still had full time jobs.
Yes.
So let's fast forward to that moment because I remember when we got the offer letter from Target, you cried.
I did.
And that was the first time I've seen, like, when it came to the business, that I saw you shed a tear.
Yeah. With Target, we had done so many things. We had applied for so many cohorts, year after year after year after year, I was emailing their buyers. We were doing all these things. At one point, we didn't make enough money to be in the cohort. The next year, thank you God that we made too much money to be in the cohort. But I felt that was our way in. And then I remember me telling myself that I was just going to let it go. And I was going to let God, literally just stop pushing so hard for Target. And I promise you now, I got that. Well, then I stopped the efforts. I remember getting an email from this form that everybody probably does. And she was looking for a new black game with music. And at that time, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I haven't been putting any efforts. I haven't really, literally, the way that this happened was by God. Like, God ordained this. Now, y'all, like, we won't talk about Target too much, but I'm saying at the point that we needed to be in Target, it was so seamless.
Also, didn't you work for Target younger?
I did.
Didn't you have, like,
So
internship
I
or
worked
something?
for
Like,
Target in their executive program. Was it 2 years or 1 year? I think.
She leaving out my favorite organization. We were Enrolled Scholars.
Yes, we were.
And she was.
Yes.
I remember you doing this because it was pretty dope. Your first summer, you interned with Pfizer.
Pfizer first.
And then you didn't like that, although they gave her a car.
They did give me a car.
That
I had
whole summer,
multiple
we was
throughout the
yeah,
summer.
we was
corporate
living.
card and things like that. I was selling
And then-
Lipitor or the cardiovascular drug. I'm a salesperson, but that's
She was selling drugs.
I was selling drugs,
And then,
but in a good way.
And then that next summer, I remember Emerald's telling you she's always been like OD sure of herself, right? In a good way, in positive, right? And it's worked out to our benefit. They was like, if you leave, if you try to get a new company, we can't guarantee that you're gonna get an internship. And she was like, okay.
No problem.
And she went, and then that's when Target became your sponsor company that summer.
It did.
And she was a Target summer intern. And then I think the next year after that, you were in the out of college, you didn't do the executive program.
I did. But then, like at that point, like everything happens for a reason, because that really, in the retail space, I worked in retail environment, things of that nature, but through that internship really helped me on retail placement and things like that. I just knew I was going to be in a marketing agency and doing, I don't know, like something else and completely different. From that, it just changed my entire.
So was that a full circle moment for you? Like, is that like, I think that's what Jules was saying.
Yeah,
It was.
At least I know when it happened, I was like, oh shit, I didn't know Tiff worked for Target. Oh, this is dope. It's coming back full circle.
It was absolutely a full circle moment to know that I didn't have to have a large company behind me with thousands of dollars to back it. That all the work that we were doing at such a young, like we were a young company at the time. Shit,
We still are.
we still are. I ain't want to have to cuss. I don't know if that is allowed here. But we were so new, and the way that it kind of happened, and the resources, right? Like at that point, we had gotten the email from the Target diversity team, and she's like, honestly, like I gave her the pitch. We wound up doing a presentation, and she said, change this, change that, change this. Right? Like they were our coaches behind it. So prior to us meeting the buyer, we were meeting with Target diversity team, which was a great resource. Because by the time that we met with the buyer, he loved the presentation.
Which is why DEI is important.
This is just why it's really important. By the time that we had met the buyer, I did the pitch, and he was like, I love the brand, right? It's a go if you can find someone who knows the Target system. And that was a whole process with itself.
But I want to ask, what do you think, each of you, what was one of the major mistakes? What was our biggest mistake early on?
Oh, I got one. Many. I do.
Well, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think we're about to hit year 5, and I think it's something working with family that people skip over, right? You do little handshake contract, or that my word is my bond type of thing. And I think we just got over this hurdle literally 48 hours ago. Is an operating agreement, right?
Yep.
Like you are discussing finances, people, it's business, but also it's personal, right? You're dealing with family, you're dealing with, this is my cousin, I'm dealing with my wife, dealing with his wife. I've known Tiff since we were younger, teenagers and everything, right? So it's like, I want this, I want this. Then you got to come to an agreement. If you sell a company, if something happens to you or things like that or whatever, well, I do this, you do that type of thing. So I think that's something that a lot of small businesses skip over, and then you realize it down the road. And we made that mistake, right? And I think we now fixed it and smoothed it out. But I think that's something you have to give advice to anybody to come to that agreement as early as possible.
Yo, I would agree. I think Nikki and I, we were just talking about that last week with somebody else, right? About how we can't, I think it was a gift and a curse, right? That like one of the reasons why, and I'll take the I should know better, right? Given my resume, I should be, everyone who's going to see this that I ever worked for or a teacher I had or something is going to say, Dante, you know better, right? When you're in the thick of it, it's a couple things. I think it's multi-layered. One, this is my cousin, my best friend. He was the best man in my wedding. I'm the best man. Like, there's nobody else on this earth other than probably like our siblings that we would trust more, we closer to. Or at least I can say from my end, but I feel he feel the same way, right? He trusts me with his kids, right? So it's like, we do it later. And then on the other side of it, we just spoke about this. We didn't realize this was how big of a business this was going to be.
It just happened fast.
It just happened. And like Tiff said, you in the thick of it, you doing it. Yeah. And then these opportunities start presenting themselves. Crazy thing is, just last week, we all four were on a plane together.
Yeah.
Right? And we all like...
And we were all four. Thank you, Jesus. We got on the plane. We landed.
Clapping when you land feels different now. You know what I mean? Right? So like... That's something we need to discuss tomorrow. Like, because even in the operating agreement, we have some type of contingencies, but I don't think there's a clause for what happens immediately if all four of us pass away.
Yeah.
Right? And also, we'll never travel together again. Right? As we think about it, it was cool hanging at the airport, but we ain't even sit right next to each other. So there's no need for all four of us to be on the same plane anymore. Right? I think for me, not only that, I think before that, this one is hard to say because it's like, are you too confident or do you not have enough faith? But it was placing that or not listening to Tiff. And when we didn't place an order big enough, I look back and I'm like,
that was that first Christmas, right? Was that the first or the second?
That was that first Christmas. We sold out.
Yeah. Right.
We sold out everything, envelopes and games.
Yeah, it was. That's a good problem, right? Yeah. And shout out to the early LC cousins because they were still buying, and we were very upfront, right? One of our core values that we set as a company early was integrity. And we will never. You guys don't ever have to worry about us bullshitting y'all. We go keep it a bean up front, and we were like, we're on back order. Yep. And people were still buying. And I look back, it's like, damn, one of our mistakes. I'm always OD tough on myself. But I'm like, we should have just ordered more. But trying to work on giving myself grace, looking back at it, I feel it was a calculated risk to do an order of 2,500 and not 5,000, right? Because as we said, we had those days.
No, the first order was 500. The second order was 2,500.
2,500, but what I'm saying, that second order to go 2,500 and not 5,000 was a calculated move.
Okay, go ahead. I kind of
that's it.
For like me, I'll tie into what you said and then also what Jules says. So since we're talking about inventory, one of the biggest things is that anything that we put our energy to and it's something that we believe, it's just like running ads and not having the inventory to like support it. At that point that we decided that this is something that we were going to be serious about, we have to, and it's just clearly I can be I'm tying into what you said, but it's that as well. Like initially starting from the gate, not worrying about things. We are a faith company. We pray to every meeting. And I really wish that we would have linked in on the things that we knew. That's one. Second part, outside of the operating agreement, we are all four owners, but we all have four different skill set, right? Versus in the beginning where this is the world that I come from in terms of inventory management, operations, not limited to, but if we would have done that a lot earlier and linked on everyone's strengths, we would have gotten a lot further. And that also goes with the operating agreement. Sometimes when you're going into business with people or family members and, whatever, not fully thinking of what is everyone's role in this versus we're doing this together.
Nikki, what would you say?
So for me, it was doing it scared, how people say it. So that also ties into like the inventory. In my world, in my mind, 500 sounds like a lot. It looked like a lot. 250 in Jersey looked like a lot.
Got it.
And then when it was like, I'd say I didn't believe it until we were completely sold out. And it's like, oh, so I guess it's not doing it scared for me. I think another mistake that no one mentioned, I don't know how, and maybe I don't know, is we on our gospel deck, we had trivia spelled wrong.
Yes. A customer looked out.
I pride myself on being a grammar stickler, and I don't know how the hell that happened. And it got into the hands of thousands of customers. It's probably sitting on the shelves of thousands of people's game room or wherever you keep our decks. But yeah, trivia was spelled wrong and no one recognized it on our team. I feel like our friends ain't recognized. Like, how did this happen? And we had one email. It was like, very nice. Shout out to our customers, our cousins. She wrote very nicely because we don't always get nice emails. She said, hey, do you guys know trivia spelled wrong? Me, defensive. What she mean?
Oh, shit. And Nikki's missing a part. At that point that we realized it in the gospel deck, it was also at that point in the
Kalante Gavin.
No, well, then, like, we've had a couple of errors, right? We're talking about a card within the card, but at that point that we realized it on the package, and we had already just placed our order for the OBG.
Shit is on the boat coming.
It's on the way,
Yes,
and
yes,
now
yes.
we had to sell through.
People notice, but not a lot. But
People more so notice the
the card missing.
When we dropped the gospel deck, Kalante Gavin, I believe his name.
Yes, it is. Yes, his
we
name is.
spelled his name incorrectly. Shout out to you, bro, because he actually wound up playing. He
He
added
did.
us sometime later and all that. But when we noticed it, we decided that we were gonna reprint the card.
Yep.
That one single card.
That one single card. In addition to that, we were gonna reprint. We were gonna have cards printed explaining why not only are you getting this deck, but you're also getting one single card. So now what Jules is saying is when it came to packing orders, you had to get an envelope, put the deck in there. We always include a sticker, put the sticker, put the extra, the corrected card, and put the card explaining why you're getting it. So it slows down
orders.
when you're packing.
Now you're not getting out as many orders. You're going to sleep later. You got to wake up earlier now.
And this is no office. This is no
our
team.
house. Yep.
This is all four of us. And I think at that time we were going like one day, or 1 week, 1 week. You pack one. And this is all four of us. This is in the trenches, really like packing orders.
And like outside of that, outside of those who were just buying the gospel deck, anyone who had purchased the gospel deck in the past,
we sent them
one card. We
sent
emailed
them
them and like incurred that cost.
Yeah. So
But
that's
what
us
you're
trying to
doing,
do right. And I think
Yeah.
Nikki
Not trying, it's doing
it's doing right.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's doing right.
Thank you for that. Nikki spoke about this at our annual meeting last week, right? Explaining what our customers think about us and how they appreciate our customer service, right? And not to be like trendy, but you know how people always, black businesses get a bad rap for that. And we stand on the fact that we put our customers first. If we call you cousin, we gonna treat you like it, right? And the cousins you like, right? Now, as the kids say, we want to spill a tea, right? Like Jules and Nikki, y'all have been married for almost 10 years. Tiff and I have been married almost 10 years. What is it like working with your spouse? And I think that before launching a business, y'all wedding was the first time that I kind of worked with Nikki, right? Like being in y'all wedding and stuff like that. She was a bridezilla,
No,
right?
it's
She was
not.
definitely a bridezilla. Jules, you don't say nothing. I'm your attorney right now. Don't say nothing. She was a bridezilla.
Not
So
true.
working with Nikki, I was like, oh, this is working with Nikki. Okay. And then like getting to work with her. I think that Nikki and I, we have similar work styles in certain instances and moments. So we work good together. But I think in the bad moments, right, I'm not married to her, but it has been weird being like, I can't just tell her like, fuck out of here. Like, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the bro's wife. Like, so that's been a weird nuance, right? I think the thing with working with Jews that I miss the most is we don't get a lot of our friendship, right? A lot of it is when we talk. And I think that could just be because like now we have 2 kids. So like time is a lot more precious.
You're tired.
So when we do get a chance to talk, we got to talk about business, right? And that's been kind of difficult. And I think sometimes it's the same thing with Tiff, right? We have to be more intentional about not talking about the business
That's
or the
a lot of
babies,
the
or the
time.
babies, right?
That's all the time.
And we have to intentionally make the space to say like, no kids, no company. Let's just talk about us. And that's a challenge in itself. Nikki, what has it been like for you?
For me, it's been definitely a huge learning curve, being that I don't come from the business background at all. I was a fish out of water, and I'm blessed enough to learn, not that I ain't believing y'all, but I ain't know who to call Jules, so I'm gonna call Dante and Tip. So it is a blessing to learn for free. And I do admire when we're on calls, and I just shared this with Jules, yes. Like, oh yeah, like I was so happy I was on the call with Dante because I am learning a lot, you know. And I think you guys are dope. So shout out to y'all.
Thank you.
And they say give people their flowers, but I do, you know, I don't think I've ever said it like personally. I don't know, publicly, whatever you want to call this. Podcastly, is that a word?
I think you just made it. You just made a word.
Trust, that's the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
Like no matter what, whether, you know, whatever happens, I trust someone. And I never knew what the hell Tiff did. I knew Dante worked at wherever he worked at. I'm sure he will say that later. So it's nice to see that. And I do feel that God orchestrates things,
Everything,
right? Like,
Amen.
who would have told Tiff when she started at Inroads and it led to Target, and then Dante on the banking side, we won't say the bank yet because we're going to let him say it. And all of the things that it would all come to this. I think it's like, it's almost like supernatural. Like how the hell?
It is.
Jules with, I think you and Dante, not that me and Tiff are whack, but you guys are so like witty and like fun. I just didn't see all of this becoming this. And I think you do get to learn people's working style. And I think that takes time with anyone, whether you're in business with your family or Bob at the job, like Tiff say, it just takes time. More specifically, working with Jules, there's not a ton of things we work on together. I do feel like sometimes I'll be like, dang, I want to tell Jules, you know, make sure this is done. But he don't reciprocate. This podcast, Jules, what's happening? What are we going to talk about? I'm a think aheader. He's not. He's on the fly. He's good. But I do feel it's dope to watch Jules in his element, in his bag, like they say. But yeah, you just got to get better with that. And maybe I'm too much of a time manager. There's another word. Is that a
time manager? That we already.
And I'm.
No, I do got to get better. You're right. I'll take that.
I think I can speak for Jules and I. We definitely all on the fly. Like me and Jules, we live life on the fly.
Yeah,
I guess to a certain extent, right?
Certain
But I
stuff,
think that having the what Jules, let's do it on three. What they call it? They do.
Yeah, they want everything.
The fact that they like that, you know what I mean?
There's
It
no words
works.
to describe that, but they both know what
No,
that means.
yeah.
I don't
And
know
you
what this
do
means.
too.
I don't know what this means.
If that's your vibe.
Nikki, first of all, thank you. I'm quite sure I can speak for Tiff. We appreciate the flowers. And let me pause here and say that I've said it publicly and on other podcasts and stuff like that, but I'll say it on our own. I am...
No shade, but what podcast you been on?
Yo, listen, I've literally said it on two other podcasts.
Okay, guys.
Shout them out. Which other podcast?
One is my profile, his wife's podcast.
that was a good one. I did look
right?
it up.
And then the other one
That one was a good
was the one that Amazon reached out to us about doing. I said it there. Y'all make me not even want to get flowers, bro. That's crazy.
Tiff
Yo.
made a face. The people were gonna want to like wonder, like,
This
why
is
is
crazy.
she making a face?
So what I was about to say was, I thank God that like my cousin made a call that changed my life, right? And it's still like that's indescribable to me. I pull up my high school yearbook. You know how you take the single picture and they put your name under. It did not say banker. It did not say lawyer. It said CEO/entrepreneur, and that was in May or June of 2004. And 20 years later, I literally I have my dream job, and I thank y'all for that. What's the worst part about working with y'all spouse? And Jules, I kind of set you up. I should have let Nikki answer that. Nikki, you have to promise me that anything he says cannot and will not be used against him
In the bedroom.
In the bedroom.
Yes.
The worst part of working with your spouse, I think, like she said, she's prepared. She's got notes on top of
She's
notes.
a thinker header.
She has
Get
a
it
planner.
right.
So she has her phone calendar. She has, I don't even know what it's called. There's a calendar that sits on our on our counter that has all the meals that's happening, doctor dates, all the extracurriculars for the kids. meetings that I'm in and all this other stuff. She has that. She has a phone planner. I don't even know if those are linked or not. But then she has a planner as well as written. Like how many reminders do you really need, right? And then she expects me to be like that. So yes, she has all of these reminders and everything like that. And I just don't operate like that, right? For work, I'm usually sitting by the people that I'm working with, so we don't send out a lot of emails. We just talk across the desk and everything, right? So
is that to me or Tiff?
Well,
I feel like
it's both, right? Because then, like,
okay.
planning, like, let's say if you planning something, right? I'm planning for something at work. You heard me say Thursday at 3:00 we're doing this. Why am I sending you an email about this as a reminder and everything? You know what time it is, right? Or we're checking in on, okay, yo, it's Wednesday. All right, see you tomorrow. We still meet at the same spot? Yep, we still meet at the same spot. So we're doing, reminders and everything to keep everything afloat, right? So I would say and it's definitely me. Like she's trying to say it's a me thing, right? So Tiff would also get upset in reference to the emails, right? I'm not the best at responding to emails, but I feel like we also got Slack channels, we got group text messages, we got Instagram group chats. But I think dealing with Nikki, back on the topic at hand, I think for me is a learning curve, right? Like, yes, she's my wife. Yes, we've been together since we were 16. But you throw different things in the mix, right? Just certain things that didn't stress her out when we were 16. Like, we didn't have kids when we were 16, right? So now it's learning about that. How does she handle stress? How does she handle different things? So I think just learning her as a 30-plus-year-old woman.
And she old.
I'm a proud 30-plus, soon to be 40 woman, okay?
But as like a just learning that as learning myself, I think is difficult. You know what I mean? It's certain things like now Nikki would be like, "Dang, Jules, you don't even go out like that no more." I'm like, I don't really need to, right? Like it's not necessary or whatever for me to go out so much and party and everything like that. So I think learning ourselves it's difficult and it's stressful. I stay up late, so I might be downstairs making noise and doing stuff. I'm editing videos. I ain't got no AirPods. I know that annoys her, but I'm sitting there like looking at videos. Nikki, how does this look? And she's like, Jules, it's fine. I'm like, yo, you didn't even look. So now I'm pissed. Oh, word, you don't want to look? I'm not asking you to look.
I'm doing my own thing, and I don't work with noise. I got a lot of another strength thing because I don't like all
so I'm like, yo, I
she
need
on the spectrum, y'all.
I'm not.
I need
nothing wrong with being on the spectrum.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
I need your opinion on this to know, is this gonna be good content, right? And you're not giving me this. So now I'm pissed, and now I don't even want the food that you just spent time cooking. Now your chicken is nasty. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna eat me a sandwich now, whatever, So things like that. So, but I think slowly but surely, I think through this 5-year period, gotten better.
Yeah. Tiff, what is it like working with me?
It's a lot. Where's the camera so I'm looking dead? Okay. Hey, it's a lot. It's a lot. I think that because our oldest daughter, our daughter is 5 years old. We're like working side by side with each other, working with each other. We now have 2 kids. There's so many things into the mix, into the dynamic. So it's difficult. Also, the hats that we kind of wear here in terms of like making choices for the business, right? Like, it's a lot. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree. But what I can say is 2 things. I can only see myself with someone who matches my level of work. So I appreciate that on one end. I guess then that comes from the friendship aspect of it. 2, many of my other jobs, I always felt like I was smarter than my boss. And I didn't respect them in that way, right? Like, so I just felt like, what you doing here? You probably just got the job. I don't know. Maybe your aunt gave it to you. I feel like I'm in the trenches with someone who works just as hard as me. And also, I do respect his mind. Who is able, I don't feel like all the ideas come from me. So I respect his mind. So I think, on one end, you a lot, bro. He's a lot. He says a lot of things on these podcasts. Please don't cancel Lyrically Correct as a team. Y'all got 3 other people you want to ride for, whatever. So it's difficult, but I do think that it's worth it.
I'm gonna take that. Thank you so
I'm about
much.
to say,
Yeah.
Tiff was being gentle, y'all.
Yeah, she definitely was. But I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And Nikki, next time we gonna get our rocks off and say what how we feel, right?
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in to episode 1, the soundtrack of our hustle. Make sure y'all follow us on all social media platforms at Lyrically Correct Game. And make sure you buy Lyrically Correct for your next game night. Peace.